Welcome to this informational webinar on implementing the CSDE K-8 Model Social Studies curricula. The purpose of this webinar is to help you understand the design of the CSDE K-8 Model Social Studies curricula, to clarify what it is and what it is not and why, and to support local decision-making and planning for implementation. My name is Irene Parisi. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for the Connecticut State Department of Education. And we've assembled a panel today of experts in the area of curriculum design, development, and small and large scale implementation for systemic change on educator teaching and learning practice and student achievement. With me is my colleague, Stephen Armstrong, education consultant for social studies at the department, Nicole Jones, academic project manager for the department, Paul Castiglione, academic project manager for the department, Malik Champlain, consultant for CERC, and Casey Dunn, a teaching and learning specialist at CES and a member of the CSDE curriculum development team. The cornerstone of this work has been the K-12 Universal Curricular Design Principles. There are 6 core principles that really define what curriculum should look like. First is focused. Learning and instructional building blocks are aligned and focused on those educational standards to ensure that we are providing intentional learning targets that describe what students should know, understand, and be able to do. Second is relevant. This ensures that the curriculum is relevant, relatable, and truly engages learners in real-world, culturally relevant experiences and explorations and inquiry. Flexible. Inherent flexibility for individualization for teachers and students so that we can support anytime, anywhere, personalized, student-centered involvement in the learning. Rigorous. This communicates those high expectations and supports for learning. Coherent. This makes explicit those connections and links between different subjects, concepts, and experiences, and those district learner goals, or even a framework for a vision or portrait of your learner. And valuing diversity. This includes those opportunities where we can support and celebrate the diversity of the topics and students and cultures and groups so that students can truly take perspective and develop a depth of understanding of the events that are presented. Within the design and development of this curriculum, pictured here is our cycle. And we know that this is a multi-step iterative design process that really progresses from evaluating the existing teaching and learning experiences to designing that improved teaching and learning so that we might implement revised teaching and learning, and then coming back to evaluating and understanding how did that work for us and how did that work for our learners. Many school districts carry out this process in a planned and systematic manner that includes those 4 phases of analyzing and planning, articulating and developing, implementing, and evaluating. Next, I'd like to have Steve Armstrong speak to us about the Connecticut Elementary and Secondary Social Studies standards.
Thank you, Irene. As you can see, the standards were approved by the State Department of Education last October. The Connecticut Elementary and Secondary Social Studies standards provide clear guidance to teachers, curriculum leaders, and administrators on what all students should know and be able to do in their social studies classes. Social studies instruction should be included for all students at all grade levels. The social studies standards should be used by educators to guide unit and lesson planning, the acquisition of quality social studies instructional materials, meaningful social studies instruction, and quality professional development for social studies teachers. All of the K-8 standards in the Connecticut Elementary and Secondary Social Studies standards can be found within units of the K-8 Social Studies model curriculum. All standards are designed to provide the necessary skills and content that will prepare students for their succeeding grade. In schools where social studies and language arts are taught in an interdisciplinary manner, both the English Language Arts Connecticut core standards and the Connecticut Elementary and Secondary Social Studies standards should be used to guide curriculum development. I'd like to turn to my colleague Casey Dunn. And Casey, if I could ask you two questions. How strong standards can lift the learning of lift the level of learning in social studies, and how the standards in the units can help to create rigorous learning opportunities. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So strong standards, they provide a level of structure, clarity, and usability that teachers can use as a guide for their instructional decisions in order to create those rigorous learning opportunities. Because of the usability of this document, it promotes more structured conversations about what success looks and feels like as students move from grade to grade, school to school on a horizontal and vertical articulation. This increased collaboration among teachers that will result in clear learning goals for students, and that will be embedded within their curriculum and their instructional practices. Additionally, the incorporation of the four social studies disciplines and the inquiry standards, they are spiraled from the K-12 angle. So the standards will facilitate that progression of students' content, concepts, and skills as they move through their learning journey. So students will be able to think critically about themselves, their place in the world, and how to engage in our society. Going back to that second question about creating rigorous learning opportunities, the standards themselves lend to richer interdisciplinary connections because of the four social studies standards and the inquiry standards. And that will allow students to build their schema and apply their knowledge in various ways. The standards in particular strike a nice balance of assured experiences, but also providing that local flexibility of how to bundle or organize your standards to meet the needs of your students. Ultimately, I believe that the standards, strong standards, make learning clearer for students and teachers. They set higher goals, expectations. They can blend skills that are being learned. They promote equity in our classrooms and help students track their own progress as they move through their classroom experiences.
Thanks, Casey. And for somebody that had worked, you have the unique situation of having worked on both documents. Could you just reiterate again what you see as the connection between the two documents?
Right, thank you. I mean, I really appreciate that question because when we as writers were going through this process, we knew because of the past legislation that the model curriculum was the next step. Within the model curriculum, there are sample course questions, topics, and of course the content suggestions or EGs that are directly from the standards document. So teachers and district leaders can help bridge those conversations about the implementation process. For instance, the model curriculum writers looked at the content EGs from the standards as guiding posts of examples of stories that students could uncover. The course questions, EGs, and topics embedded in the standards help facilitate our process of what supplemental resources, sample assessment ideas to include that were appropriate to the grade level.
Thank you, Casey. And now my colleague Nicole Jones is going to talk about unit components within the model curriculum.
Thank you so much, Steve. As illustrated in the Curricular Design Principles Handbook, a template was utilized for each unit. Although each unit component is equally relevant and demonstrate our commitment to develop meaningful learning experiences, I'd like to take some time to highlight some of the following. The relevant standards component that includes in our model documents, content standards and inquiry standards. It is important to note that both the elementary and secondary social studies standards are included in the model curriculum, and they originate from, as we mentioned, the National College Career and Civic Life C3 framework for state social studies. But the content inquiry standards are bundled and placed in the units and serve as the foundation to our curriculum documents. The content standards were strategically selected to indicate the overall enduring skills and understandings of the academic work of each unit. And they collectively represent the year-long definitive learning outcomes. All content standards included in the K-8 model curricula are inspired by the 4 basic content areas in social studies, history, civics, geography, and economics. An important thing to note is that there are no overarching standards, priority standards, or supporting standards in the Connecticut Elementary and Secondary Social Study model units. So users will notice that all content standards have equal weight in the curriculum documents. The inquiry standards are carefully selected and intentionally integrated in the units since we wanted to highlight the influence of inquiry. Users will notice that in most cases, the social studies curriculum units adds the inquiry approach and asks students to answer to or create compelling questions to research in groups or create responses to compelling questions and then present their responses in innovative ways. The final stage is very evident in our documents that allows the inquiry approach to encourage students to take informed actions with what they have learned through the inquiry process. Moving along to the transfer goal. The transfer goals are based on the vision of the learner and aligned with the content and inquiry standards of the unit. The coherence component includes statements that conceptualize how the content of the unit is connected to previous learning. The coherence component answers the questions, where does this unit fall in the progression of learning toward the content standards? What learning occurred prior to the unit, and how is the content of the unit connected to future learning? The essential questions serve to synthesize how and the why of the skills and processes the student is learning in the unit. Moving along to enduring understandings that indicate the knowledge that can be applied in and beyond the classroom. Our documents amplify the enduring understandings and how they represent students' insights developed over the course of the unit. And the last component is that we like to highlight today is the critical consciousness for diversity and equity. This component was strategically crafted with our lead key partner from CERC, Malik Champlain. Malik, can you speak about some of the key attributes of the critical consciousness for diversity and equity in our documents?
Absolutely, Nicole. So as we know, the model curricula developed by CSDE ensures high access to high quality and high impact teaching and learning aligned to the content standards, ensuring Connecticut students have access to equitable educational opportunities and succeed within a culture of high expectations. The legislatively created topics that have been integrated into the curriculum include Native American Studies, Asian American and Pacific Islander Studies, LGBTQ plus studies, climate change, American veterans, civics and citizenship, the principles of social emotional learning, as well as examining racism and more. We know by centering critical consciousness in the design of the curriculum, educators create learning environments that validate students' identities and experiences, fostering a sense of belonging for a learner. We know when students feel seen, heard, and valued, they are more likely to engage meaningful with the material to achieve academic success. Additionally, by addressing legislative topics and integrating critical consciousness throughout the curriculum, the CSDE model curricula contribute to the development of a more equitable educational system where students from diverse backgrounds can thrive and contribute to their collective progress.
Thank you so much, Malik. Moving right along to some other considerations. The considerations listed here, such as the integration of inquiry, the proportional emphasis on informational literary text and writing types and suggested text sets, considerations for local context and students' lived experiences, local history and consideration for socio-cultural influences, and the C3 framework is important to point out. It relates to not only the unit development process, but it also helps our documents promote the major implications around the appropriate instructional practices that our model units initiate for users or hope to initiate for users. It is important for our users of these documents to understand how the integration of these considerations provides strategic guidance to the curriculum development and implementation process. And so I'd like to speak a little bit about the curriculum development process in more depth, which we want to inform you all that the team that helped to create these documents worked really hard to amplify the powerful patterns of learning and social studies. The curriculum development and leadership design team members served as partners in the design and development of the social studies model curricula, and their roles and responsibilities included, but was not limited to, sharing expertise, opinions, resources, and perspectives within and across content areas. They also provided resources in the subject matters related to history, civics, geography, and economics. As previously mentioned, Casey was a part of that curriculum development team. And so I'd like to invite Casey to speak about the design.
Thank you so much, Nicole. What I really appreciated about having these dual roles for the standards development and the model curriculum was the level of perspectives that you noticed, that you noted of who was involved in the teams. The onboarding process that you and Steve facilitated was very mindful, and it placed very high value on the curriculum development team's own learning of the standards and our various calibration activities that we went through. The most consideration that I had was, and from my perspective, the most important part of the process was the cross-section of writers that you notice. It was very similar to the standards development process, where there were multiple perspectives from members of the writing teams, the revision teams for standards, as well as the CSDE, CERC colleagues, REST colleagues, local museums, historical societies, district curriculum coordinators, and most importantly, classroom teachers. Having our teachers' perspective was crucial in determining the sequence of standards within grade levels, uncovering those resources and strategies, and honoring the beautiful work that is already in place across our state. On a macro level, an added benefit of the model curriculum development was that it built capacity across the state to implement district-specific curricular changes and align our instructional practices with the new standards.
Thank you so much, Casey. Additionally, Malik, would you expand on the local history and consideration for socio-cultural influence aspects?
Yes, having the ability to incorporate the local history and the socio-cultural influences of people of color, including the historical perspectives of Northeastern woodland indigenous peoples, freed and enslaved Black people, and others, enhanced the model curriculum. What we did was it was just exploring the histories and contributions of those groups and helping students gain a richer understanding of their communities, past and present. Learning about traditions, struggles, joys, resilience, and genius fosters respect, appreciation for all cultures and heritage. This prepares our students to be more informed and engaged citizens in an increasingly diverse society.
Thank you so much, Malik. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Steve, who will explain what the curriculum is.
Yes, what it is and what it is not is a key part of our discussion today. And I just say what it is, what the model curriculum is. It's a curriculum that can serve as a central roadmap for communicating essential learning objectives for mastery by the end of a grade or a grade band. The model curriculum units serve to support districts in delineating how teachers will organize their instruction and teach to develop skills and content knowledge and assess students' ability to transfer learning. The model curriculum is and can be absolutely used alongside locally developed curriculum. There certainly can be a mix of the model curriculum and materials that districts are creating at their own level. What the model curriculum is not, it explains units, but it does not go down as far as to explain or describe day-to-day sequences of lessons. The lesson planning we're leaving to the districts because we firmly believe that the educators in whatever town or whatever city know what their students need to work on. So we really want to leave that part to the districts. And to repeat myself, we're stopping, the depth we're stopping at is at the unit level. This is not a model curriculum that's aligned to any specific program or texts. There are large numbers of resources available. I mean, and as far Malik was talking about local history, there's many community assets in all of your towns and cities. So use the resources that you're using, explore new resources, explore local resources, but we're not aligning to any specific program. And the other thing, as was explained by Malik, there's a lot of groups that are in this curriculum that teachers and even curriculum leaders may not be knowledgeable about. So this doesn't give you, the model curriculum does not provide extensive explanation, explicit lesson ideas about some of the groups, as Malik said, Native Americans, LGBT key folks, veterans. We will, however, be doing professional development on all of those topics during the 2024-25 academic year, excuse me. Irene?
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, everyone. It is very clear that there was a strong commitment to this work, passion, and truly appreciate your expertise to ensure that all things were considered in the development of this curriculum. We are a Go Open state, which means we are committed to being an open education resource state. And by doing that, we can ensure universal access anytime, anywhere. And I think, Steve, what you were sharing about the opportunity to curate additional resources through implementation, and we can get that feedback and then add it to our model units, which just makes it that much stronger for our teacher colleagues across the state. So what I'd like to do is invite Paul Castiglione, our project manager for the department, to show teachers, show all users how to access our openly available model curricula and share with us what is OER, why are we an OER state, excuse me, and what does this mean for our teacher colleagues?
Thank you, Irene. I'm excited today to show everyone Go Open Connecticut, Connecticut's public digital library of open educational resources. So what is an OER? Why use an OER? It's because it provides all educators with universal access to high quality, high impact instructional resources and model curricula at no cost. So what is an OER? So they're learning materials in any medium that can be modified and or enhanced because permission was granted by the author. So why would you use an OER? Because it saves time and energy, it increases flexibility, and it adds to your existing material and knowledge. On the slide, you'll see a graph on the left, and the user will notice that there's a green tile at the bottom labeled K-12 Model Curricula. This is where all model curricula can be accessed. At the top of every course, the CSDE has created a quick start guide to support the user in understanding how to access the curriculum on Go Open. Each Quick Start Guide also contains a Q&A section to help answer common questions. That is the graphic on the right. That's an example of the 2 social studies Quick Start Guides. After you have selected the K-12 model curriculum tile, the model curriculum content will appear like it's shown on the left-hand side. That is all the current public model curriculum that is available to all users in Connecticut. Once you select the CSDE K-8 model social studies curriculum tile, you will have access to all grades K through 8, and then you can select the grade of your choice to access the units. Nicole, can you now explain how to use the units?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul. So moving right along to planning for implementation. As outlined in the CSDE's K-12 Curricular Design Principles document, planning for implementation is a multi-step process. Like the development of quality curricula, planning for implementation of the K-8 model curricula will be an iterative process, and users should consult with their local curriculum leaders and administrators to understand the district's curriculum process before making decisions about implementing the units. The development of the curricular process, from evaluating the existing teaching and learning to designing improved teaching and learning to implementing the revised teaching and learning, and back to evaluating the revised teaching and learning, may take a lot of time and intentional planning. Many school districts may carry this process out in a planned and systematic manner that includes the 4 phases that are outlined in our design principles document, but I will speak a little bit about them today. So districts may want to consider how they build the capacity for analyzing and planning. So they may want to convene a leadership curricular development team, identify key issues and trends in this specific discipline, in this case, social studies, and assess their assets, needs, and issues. It is also recommended that districts intentionally plan for the opportunity to engage in the process of articulating and developing. So articulating their K-12 program philosophy, in this case, it might be the social studies philosophy, and thinking about how they want to assess their program learning goals and develop their sequence for their grade level course learning topics in social studies. Another key element here is if they'd like to go for the full curricular implementation, they would essentially be putting the curricula into practice, and that would incorporate providing professional learning and support and monitoring the implementation at the district, school, and classroom levels.
Thank you, Nicole. And once again, thank you everyone for your expertise and passion on this work. So there might be more questions for you, the viewer, away from this webinar. So what we've curated here are some on-demand resources for you. You can read one, watch one, or explore one, or go big and do all, and access all of these resources as you start to engage in the beginning phases of the process locally. So this is just a short list of the multiple on-demand resources available to you. And certainly we are here to help you. We can help you. So listed here are our email addresses. Please do not hesitate to email, regardless of the phase that you may be in thinking about implementation or even scaling or professional learning. Thank you for taking time to view this informational webinar. And again, we're here, we can help you.